What is up, YouTube? It's Grinch, and in front of me I have the brand new LEGO Avatar set called Jake and Neytiri's First Flight, and we're going to do a quick review of it. This set has a whopping 2 minifigures. It contains 572 pieces, and it retails for $60 US. You can see there's two big Banshee builds that the minifigures Jake and Neytiri can ride, and then there's also a build for a suggestion of some of the floating islands from the Avatar movie. Let's start by taking a closer look at those two minifigures. As mentioned, this set comes with two minifigures, and you can see here we have Jake in his avatar form. This is, relatively earlier on in the movie. And then we also have Neytiri as well, also in her avatar form, also representative of what she kind of looked like earlier on in the movie. They both came equipped with this buildable Lego spear. I'm going to go ahead and remove that just so we can take a bit closer and better look at the minifigures themselves. On the left here, you can see that we have Jake Sully, and on the right, you can see that we have Neytiri. I really like what they've done with these LEGO Avatar figures because they've used longer legs to make them a lot taller, and a part of that is they use that standard minifigure torso, but they have these longer arms on them as well to kind of give them a better proportion to the legs, and that's absolutely necessary. I think that would look kind of silly if they had these tiny arms. It's also worth noting that the headpiece itself is one plate taller, and there's actually ears coming out of that headpiece, and then there's a little bit of a chiseled chin there. It's not that traditional minifigure head shaping. On the left here we have Jake Sully, and this was representative of him from earlier on in the movie, kind of right after or right after that kind of introduction to him being an avatar and being in avatar form. You can see here that he's kind of wearing a traditional native cloth leg printing, and then he also on his torso he's got this really fine detailed sparkle printings to kind of capture that coloring that the Na'vi actually had on their skin, and I think that looks really cool. I like those tiny details. Looking around at his back, you can see that he comes with a tail that is actually the Speedy Gonzales tail from the collectible minifigure series, recolored in a light blue coloring. And then you can see his hairpiece has this kind of small bar attachment sticking off of it. We'll get to the purpose of that later, but that's the Kuru, or the place where they can make their neural connection to the universe of Pandora. On the right side we have Neytiri, and she is also sporting her kind of earlier in the movie look. She's got a little princess crown on her facial printing. She's got a nice necklace printing, and then that same cloth printing design or similar design just in a different color here. You can also see just kind of that metallic detailing on her printing for the torso too, and I really like that touch. It kind of just adds a little bit of uniqueness and depth to this character. Around the back you can see she also has that same bar piece sticking out of her hairpiece, and that again is so that she can make that Na'vi neural connection to the environment. And then she also has that Speedy Gonzales tail, but in light blue. To give you an idea of how much larger these Avatar figures are than the traditional minifigure, I included this minifigure here. She is actually from a separate LEGO set. She was not included in this set. However, you can see that the legs are quite a bit taller, the arms are quite a bit longer, and that head is just a little bit bigger too. And overall, that just makes these new Avatar figures tower in comparison to the traditional minifigures, and I think that's cool. It definitely is a more accurate way to have these figures, and I'm glad LEGO is doing that specifically in this case. I don't think they always need to do that. I don't think they need to get super specific with their heights for figures. That's kind of part of the beauty of LEGO itself, but in this case where you have a source material where the people are significantly taller than the humans, I think that's a nice touch, and I hope that they use these three tall legs in the future more often, and even other franchises as well. Now we're going to take a closer look at the build that's included with this set, starting with the two Banshees that are kind of the main feature items of this set. We're going to take a closer look at this lighter blue one. This is Jake's Banshee, and this turquoise one that is Neytiri's Banshee. Let's start over here with Jake's Banshee. Here you can see Jake's Banshee, and as you can see, it uses that same kind of building style as the Turuk from the larger Avatar set. He has 2 wings, a tail, and then a molded head, and the rest of the body is brick built. Let's take a closer look at him. Without the stand connection from the terrain build, it's kind of hard to stand these guys up on their own. You can see there's no actual legs here on the main build. You can use the back wings to kind of stand them up, and that's the best way that I've found to be able to stand up the Banshees on their own. The back wings do move up and down. You can see these do go up and down. They do not go side to side. If you try that like I just did, it'll fall off. Same thing on the front wings here. They only move up and down. There is no other motion there. The wings do use this kind of sheet vinyl-y piece of plastic, which is okay. It's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. They are able to capture so many details, including some translucent detailing here, which is nice. That specific pattern, right? They can be more specific. Not as bad as I thought it would initially be, but definitely not kind of that standard of Lego that we're used to. I feel like they used to do this back in the 90s, and it kind of feels a little bit cheaper. The head is molded, and I'm glad that they included that. You can see you can also move the head up and down, and then it's on a ball joint here. The mouth does open up on its own too, so that's nice. You can kind of pose it, make it have some kind of angry looking faces, which is all good fun. And the main body here actually works really well as a handle for the Banshee. So as you're swooshing it around, you can hold that piece right there, and it works really, really well as a handle. So that's a nice inclusion for sure. You can see here on the back, there is a saddle as well as that kuru, and how that works is you can actually just take the minifigure, you can take that bar piece on the back of their head, you can hook them up to it just like that, and then you can sit Jake here on the saddle. Be careful you don't pop the hair off. I have noticed that hair does pop off pretty easily when you're using this, and then you can just kind of have them ride just like that, and that looks pretty darn good in my opinion. Neytiri's Banshee actually uses that same exact design, but you can see this design is a teal color and then a yellow color, whereas the other one was kind of a purple, blue, and white. This one's got more teal, yellow, and then brown in it. Otherwise, it's the exact same design, and I will say that definitely is a little bit of a drawback to me. I don't know how they would have made them significantly different without actually changing up what you were making, but the set does get a little bit repetitive because literally 1/3 of it is a Banshee, then you have this terrain build, and then you have another third is that same exact Banshee, just in a different color. So it does, kind of take away a little bit from the building experience for me. But overall, really nice design. You can kind of take your pick at which color you actually like the best. I will say though, one thing that takes away from some of the display ability for me is that there's this Technic frame on the bottom. Really kind of dislike that look. It doesn't look too bad from this angle. You do get used to seeing the little dots on them. These ones are starting to bend a little bit too at the end. I've noticed nothing too bad, not like the Turuk, but overall you do get used to this look here. But I just don't really like that look. That just does not look very good to me at all. So, you kind of have to pick your battles here with the display, or if you want that, really nice detailing from the top of it. So overall, not as bad as I thought when I first looked at pictures, but definitely, not trying to justify the use of these wing pieces here, other than for maybe capturing that additional detail that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise with traditional Lego bricks. The terrain build in this set is supposed to represent the Hallelujah Mountains from the movies, and I think it does a pretty good job as a nice suggestion. Obviously in the movie this was significantly bigger, but I think that would have been so expensive to do in Lego, and it just wouldn't have been worth the price. I do like terrain builds, but I like this. This is a really nice suggestion of a terrain build, and I think it works really, really well in this case. Overall, you can see here you have kind of different stepping areas for the mountain, a nice waterfall that's coming out of the top mountain as represented here with this trans blue, and then you have more trans blue coming down here for a little river. There's also some connection pieces down here so you can connect this with the other Lego Avatar sets. It looks pretty good from all the angles too. You can see there's some roots being suggested here coming out of the floating islands too, another root here, and then just some nice foliage as well. And what I think is really cool actually is the inclusion of some glow in the dark carrot pieces. I think that's just really awesome to get. And then lastly, of course, you actually have here a axle where you can hook up both of the Banshees and make them appear like they're flying. And I really like that touch for this set. I think it kind of gives it that next level of displayability, and I really like displayable sets. Let's take a closer look at the glow-in-the-dark features of this set. Wow, so that looks pretty good, and as you can see, you know, those carrots look kind of cool, all glowing in the dark right there. Maybe somebody can make a nice nuclear carrot build for Halloween or something this year, but that looks pretty good. They do fade pretty quickly, so we're gonna go back to having the lights back on, but overall, really nice terrain build here. Not much complaints. It is though pretty small and lacking. It could have been just a touch bigger in my opinion, but overall I think you have everything that you need here. You can also just kind of use it as a small little area for the minifigures to play too, and then kind of just create the adventure, create the scene of Jake and his first flight on his Banshee with Neytiri that you see in the movie, and I think this definitely helps you do that in an adequate way. Alright, so here you can see them back on their stands, and one last thing worth noting is there's actually a clip right here where you can clip on their spears so that they have some place to hold them while they're in flight. And just to kind of summarize my thoughts here, I really like this view. This stand is really great, and I like how this Banshee over here is at an angle and this one straight, because it kind of just makes it look a little bit more natural versus having them on their same flight path. I do really like this set, and I think the building experience is just about slightly above average here for Lego. It's a nice end product overall, but it does get a little bit repetitive because, you know, you build one Banshee, the terrain, and then you build another Banshee, so all you're doing is just recoloring the one build that you've already done, and that's okay. I like how they broke it up. You know, the instructions actually suggest doing one Banshee, the terrain, and then another Banshee, and I think that was intentional so that you're not just building two of the same thing back to back. Playability is great here. I think definitely a 4.5 out of 5 on playability for me. I think the only thing against that is that the scene itself isn't, you know, it's an exciting scene in the movie, but how replayable is it? You know, once you do it once, you've kind of lived through it. So for me, there's just something else missing here to kind of give it that longevity of play. And then of course with the displayability, love it. Love this view in particular. However, the wings definitely detract from the displayability for me, so I'd give that a 4.5 out of 5. Would have been perfect if those wings were a little bit better, but I just can't for the life of me say that this is a perfect display piece because of these wings and the ball sticking out of them and then the Technic frames. It's just not perfect because of that. And then of course, last but certainly not least, we have value for the money. It is a little bit more expensive, you know, the price to part ratio is fine if you're into that, but for $60 you are buying a display piece here, and when I think about it, I'm kind of comparing it to like something like the Groot that I believe was like $55, and I do feel like you get a little bit more here because there's just a little bit more mass. You get two of the Banshees, you get a nice terrain build, and you get two minifigures, so overall I can't complain too much about the price. It's not necessarily a good price, but it's definitely a fair price, so I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. So altogether, my rating for this set comes in at 4.25 out of 5. Pretty solid, above average, nothing crazy, but definitely some highlights, definitely some special parts about it, and I look forward to the rest of these Avatar sets to come. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and joining in the conversation in the comments section below. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.